What's up, everybody? I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice. Welcome to Crime of the Arts,
a true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heists, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
Today, I'm going to tell you about how to murder your husband.
Oh, damn.
Coming in hot.
You were coming in very hot. I was like, we're going straight there. And we might inadvertently have a theme. Because again, folks, Lisa and I, we don't plan what we're doing. But I'm going to call this Good Grief. And we'll get into that in a bit. Or perhaps it could be Good Grief? Like question mark? We'll find out.
Perfect. Okay, so the story I have for you today is actually about an author who may or may not have taken a page out of her own books to commit the ultimate crime.
Oh, damn.
And by the end of the story, I want you to tell me what you think. So, folks, You go out on our social and you tell us if you think the theories are correct or if this is something totally different. And I'm curious to see what you're going to think, Justin.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this now. You took a page from her own book. Okay. Uh-huh.
So, characters of our very true crime story today are named Daniel and Nancy Brophy, and they lived in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. They're married for 25 years, and they lived like this ideal life to any onlooker. I'll give you a little back history on them. Nancy Crampton is the daughter of two lawyers. She was born June 16th, 1950, and raised in Wichita Falls, Texas. She was a graduate at the University of Houston, and she later met her to-be husband, Daniel Brophy, when she moved to Oregon in the early 90s to attend the Le Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts.
Oh, that's actually pretty nice.
Right? Yeah.
I've heard of that before, yeah.
Daniel was actually the chef instructor there, which seems so cool to me. So a little back history on Daniel. Daniel Brophy was, like I said, a chef and a teacher, and he loved to garden on his spare time. And his mantra for life was, life is like a science experiment. And I guess what he means in that is like you have to keep trying new things and get out there and have the experiences.
Exactly. It's unpredictable. Life is unpredictable.
Yep. And in Nancy's bio on her author website, she is quoted saying, "I can't tell you when I fell in love with my husband, but I relate the moment I decided to marry him. I was in a bath, and it was a big bathtub. And when you see these two people, you go, why did you give me that image? Thank you very much." She said, "I expected him to join me, and when he was delayed, I called out, 'Are you coming?' His answer convinced me he was Mr. Right. He said, 'Yes, but I'm making hors d'oeuvres.'" Can you imagine spending the rest of your life without a man like that? And unfortunately, she was going to find out exactly how that life would look.
Oh, no.
Let me give you a little more detail on Nancy's writing career, because it is relevant to our story. So Nancy Crampton Brophy is a self-published romantic novelist, well known for her 700-word essay published on a blog titled How to Murder Your Husband.
Oh, okay. That's very specific blog. And this, she's well known for that.
That is her number one credit.
Okay. Well, again, people love their murder mysteries and all the other stuff. Like my mom, she stays watching Investigation Discovery and Scorned and all these things.
Dude, Snapped. It's my whole life.
So it makes sense.
It's my whole life.
Fatal Attraction. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's looking for like a funny true crime show, Pink Collar Crimes is fucking great.
I'm gonna have to take a look at that. Yeah, I've never heard of that
it's
one
hilarious,
before.
Yeah, one of the podcasts I listen to on their like Patreon, they pick a second cycle to do, and they just did Pink Collar Crimes recently, and it was hysterical. Okay, so like I said, she was self-publishing, so I think that says a lot right there. Her first published work was a pamphlet for the University of Houston entitled "Between Your Navel and Your Knees."
Whoa.
I think you can surmise what the topic is about.
Damn. That's crazy, though.
For real.
That title.
Yep. So the subject matter dealt with the changing mores of sexuality in the 60s and 70s. It's like, all right, Nancy, why don't you sit down, okay? I don't think you have all the answers here. So much of her career has been focused on nonfiction with articles published in trade journals and technical writing for human resources departments. So she has like a few books or whatever papers out where she's like, how to tell a story or how to correctly write this kind of a letter. It's very obnoxious.
Oh, she's one of those. Yeah.
But her great love, her true love, storytelling. So in 2003, she joined a local chapter of Romance Writers of America and learned the craft of story writing. Since then, she has published both romantic suspense novels and 2 novellas under her name and other names. I don't know what her other names are. And her stories are about, this is self-proclaimed from her website.
Of course it is. Of course it is. When you're already making how-to stories, everything you say is going to be fucking self-proclaimed.
Okay, so this is what she wrote. Her stories are about pretty men and strong women, about families that don't always work, and about the joys of finding love and the difficulty of making it stay. I feel like that's really telling.
That is very telling. Just all of that. I'm like, did you just map out all of your sorrows and woes?
She just put her own life into books.
She just transferred her whole life there. That's crazy. So,
she has a romance series called Wrong Never Felt So Right. And there are 6 books published between 2015 and 2017. And here's their titles. Hold on to your butts, folks.
Oh, no.
The Wrong Brother, The Wrong Hero, The Wrong Cop, The Wrong Husband, The Wrong Lawyer, and The Wrong Seal. And they all have shirtless Hawkeyes on the cover, and you can still buy them on Amazon. And they're actually free if you have Kindle Unlimited. But the odd thing that's like a consistent theme through all of these books is that they're all Navy SEALs or ex-Navy SEALs, all of them. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Okay.
She must have a fucking fetish for Navy SEAls.
Just going off those titles, because at first I was like, I'm going to look it up. Then I'm like, I'm not going to look this up. I'm just going to listen to what you're saying. So it's like the wrong brother, the wrong father, the wrong husband. Oh, no, sorry.
No father. You grossed me out with the father. That's why I freaked out.
Whoa.
Yeah, brother, hero, cop, husband, lover, seal.
I'm guessing each of these books she was with she was with one of these people and then realized she picked the wrong sibling. Is that what's happening? Because that's what the shit sounds like.
Okay, so in my experience of reading these like shitty semi-erotic novels that this is probably very similar to, she's probably falling for the one she shouldn't have, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that too.
Yeah, like I said, they're actually free on Kindle Unlimited, and I don't know, maybe I might read one. Is that bad?
No judgment. No judgment.
Oh, God, I'm just so curious now.
It's research for the podcast.
Right, yes,
it's
research. It's called that. Research, not embarrassing. So she enjoyed the storytelling and was quoted saying, "My imaginary friends have rich, larger-than-life lives encompassed in a few hundred pages with definite beginnings, snappy middles, and above all, happy endings. My personal life is never as clearly defined. Beginnings are hard to locate. A new job, a school term, a family event like a death or a wedding might signal the start of something new, but it's never heralded with any fanfare or any link in the chain." And in the book, The Wrong Husband, she includes mentions of a woman killing her spouse. So, all of that to be said, that on June 2nd in 2018, Daniel Brophy began his day like any other. And that morning, he got in his car and he headed to the Cordon Bleu Institute to teach his students. After he arrived at work, he began to prepare for his students' arrival. While Daniel was pouring buckets of ice and water, he got shot in the back by someone who entered into his kitchen.
Oh, shit. In the back, though?
In the back while he was pouring the buckets of ice and water. I don't know why the article didn't just say ice water, so I'm just going to go back and say ice water because that's so stupid. Ice and water?
He took the cold Brita filter out of the refrigerator. It was filled with condensated water stains on the thing. Yeah, this sounds like a novel in itself. He poured the cold water into the ice, whatever.
Then, I guess in his surprise, he turns around and he gets shot twice, close range in the chest.
Oof.
And he collapsed to the ground because, of course, he did.
You know, I mean, getting shot in the back on paper, when you say it, it's kind of like, okay, a coward has to shoot you in the back. But on the flip side of that, for me, I'm kind of like either a coward or someone who's just cold blooded and they don't give a fuck about you at this point.
Yep.
Like there was no warning. It's not like you guys were talking and you walked away and got shot in the back. No, you were doing your thing with whatever type of fucking water and you got shot in the back. You didn't even know the person was
Didn't
there.
even know they were there. Right. Yeah. No clue. So students at the Culinary Institute were the ones who found Daniel unconscious in one of the kitchens. And one of the students attempted CPR, but he died at the scene, unfortunately. 2 9mm shell casings were found at the scene, but that was it. That's all they found. So,
Okay.
So do you have any theories? Who would have done this? Why?
I mean,
It's just like a shot in the fucking dark, isn't it?
It's
totally ridiculous.
Who did he anger? I don't know. Naturally, I want to say the author because of all of her books, but I just don't know.
I mean, okay, so let's be real for a second. Every time someone is murdered, the first person they're going to look at is the person they're married to, dating, fucking, whatever it is. That's the first person.
Significant other every time.
Every time. Right?
Every time.
With that being said, during the investigation, police came across a video surveillance showing a minivan that looked to be the same make, model, and color as the one Nancy Brophy drove. And it was in the area of the Culinary Institute between 6:39 a.m. and 7:28 a.m. Daniel arrived at the Institute at 7:20 a.m.
Wow. So that car was already there waiting.
Waiting. So it's strange. It's really strange. I love that it's a minivan and that Nancy drives a minivan. She writes these like dirty novels. It kills me. Okay, so obviously the police spoke with Nancy that morning and they notified her of the murder of her husband. So what do you do when this kind of thing happens in your life? You post it on Facebook, don't you, Justin? You just, like any normal person, you go to Facebook and you post it.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm not posting it, but.
Right? Yeah. So, from her Facebook page, for my Facebook friends and family, I have some sad news. My husband and best friend, Chef Dan Brophy, was killed yesterday morning. I'm struggling to make sense of everything. There's a candlelight vigil at Oregon Culinary Institute tomorrow, Monday, June 4th at 7 p.m. I am overwhelmed. Please save your phone calls for a few days until I can function.
I don't mean to laugh, but again, it's just who the fuck puts it on Facebook? And then I'm just thinking of that one person that doesn't know Facebook etiquette. Because, whenever someone does put like sad news on Facebook, now we have that heart hugging care emoji and we have the heart emoji.
And
but there's always like the one or two motherfuckers that hit like the thumbs up or the laugh emoji. So I'm just picturing like
a few too many thumbs ups.
Yeah, a few too many thumbs up from maybe like the wrong man, the wrong brother. You never know. But yes.
For me, when I see things like this, and this is me being a judgy bitch, maybe, but this is attention seeking.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very attention seeking. This isn't how you notify loved ones. It's purely about people writing, oh my God, Nancy, I'm so sorry for your loss, right? It's about her. It's not about him.
It's 100% attention seeking. And I mean, it also... It's attention seeking, but there's something else that I'm looking for about it. It's like not only are you seeking the attention, but I also feel perhaps you just don't care enough about that person. Maybe you're overcompensating, putting on a show of your loss for the person. That's what I'm getting at.
You're maybe on the nose. When someone is murdered, they always talk to the spouse first, right? Like we said. And unfortunately, the random murders are less common than the murders committed by the people that we allow close to us, that we love and trust. That's just the reality.
Exactly.
So Nancy was brought in for questioning, and they asked her where she was that morning because, remember, the minivan that looks just like hers was seen on the surveillance tape at the Institute. So Nancy told investigators that she had a normal morning. She walked the dogs, she had a shower, and when they confronted her with the surveillance footage, Nancy amended her story and said she had no memory of such a drive.
Oh, boy.
She was likely to be on a coffee run that she forgot about due to the stress of the day's events. I'm sure.
She's so full of shit.
So full of shit, yeah. I mean, if you remember, like, the fact that you walked the dogs and you took a shower, like, that's so mundane that how did you forget about the coffee, which is also mundane? That's, like, a terrible lie. We're not buying it, and the prosecutors didn't buy it.
Okay, good.
So, the prosecutors believed Nancy murdered her husband for insurance money. Apparently, the Brophies were having some serious financial issues. Prosecutors stated Dan Brophy was content in his simplistic lifestyle, but Nancy Brophy wanted something more. The bottom line is Dan Brophy was worth $1.5 million to Nancy Brophy if he was dead, and he was worth a life of financial hardship if he stayed alive. Nancy planned and carried out what she believed was the perfect murder. A murder she believed would free her from the grips of financial despair and enter a life of financial security and adventure.
Oh, okay.
And the thing that's interesting is despite the dire financial situation the Brophies were in, Nancy made sure she paid the life insurance premiums leading up to the murder. In fact, she paid over $16,000 in insurance premiums in 2017, while they fell $6,000 behind on their mortgage payments.
Jeez. And that wasn't a red flag there. How did he not notice that was going on?
Some people just, especially in a marriage, one person usually handles the things and the other person's like, yep, knock yourself out. I mean, that's my experience. Nancy Crampton Brophy was soon charged with murdering her husband to collect his life insurance policy. She pled not guilty, which they have literally no other evidence pointing anywhere. So the prosecution built their case on the evidence that Nancy, she's an idiot. So apparently Nancy procured gun parts in the months leading up to her husband's death, including one optional feature that prosecutors claimed may have prevented the bullets used in the shooting from being traced back to her weapon. So detectives alleged they discovered that she purchased a Glock slide and barrel on eBay, and she put those parts on the Glock she bought at a bun show.
That's something else, probably in her novels.
Right, yeah. So the prosecutors allege she shot her husband and then switched out those pieces again so that it looks like she has a completely different gun. And the Brophies had purchased a Glock after the Parkland High School shootings.
That might have been her excuse. She just felt she needed protection.
She told detectives that was her reason. She felt she needed protection, but they hadn't purchased any ammunition, which, I own a gun. I don't fucking know how to use it, but I guarantee you there's ammunition in this house somewhere.
I was going to say, anyone that owns a gun has ammunition.
What are you going to do? Throw it at someone? Why would you buy a gun with no bullets? It makes no fucking sense.
I don't know. This sounds like some Peggy Hill shit. And, I say Peggy Hill as in King of the Hill because, she was, let's just coin that phrase. Let's just make it a phrase. She Peggy Hilled it. He or she Peggy Hilled it. Because this whole, she thinks she knows how to teach people how to do things, all that self-help bullshit. And now because she thinks she's so good at the self-help, she self-helped herself into killing her husband. Right. And it didn't fucking work.
No,
clearly.
She's obviously not good at anything. So
yeah, she's not good at anything.
So essentially, whatever these parts were would be able to present a new, fully intact firearm to police that would not be a match to any of the shell casings that she left at the crime scene. That's what the prosecution alleges, okay?
Oh, my goodness.
The thing is, detectives never found that slide and barrel they believe that she used in the shooting. And it's called a ghost casing. This is a thing that people do. So even if they looked at her gun, it wouldn't match any of the ballistics evidence. That's wild to me. Why doesn't every fucking criminal do this? Is this an option?
I'll give her credit. She did her research, but
it's crazy. Would she have a dramaturg?
Did she have a dramaturg for the murder? But on the flip side of that is obviously they traced her buying this part back to her though, right? So
right. But they never found it. It's all circumstantial. The theory prosecutors claimed is she shot her husband at work with the ghost gun, where there would be no cameras or witnesses, and then she would move to collect that hefty life insurance policy in the days afterwards. Sean Overstreet, the deputy district attorney, claimed in his closing arguments that she had the plan in place, she had the opportunity to carry out the murder, and she was the only one who had the motive. Nancy is the only person who could have committed this crime. However, Nancy's lawyers claimed the gun parts to be for a novel she was writing about a lady who methodically collected gun parts to assemble a weapon and turn the tables on an abusive husband.
Of course she did.
I mean, wow. I feel like that's not even a good lie.
Yeah, people try it though. I feel like half of those shows I've watched when like somebody's murdering their spouse or they're doing whatever, it's like a journal's found. I saw one episode of something where the woman clearly killed her husband. She went to trial for it. They found a journal about her hatred towards things. And she's like,
I'm gonna kill him.
yeah, in the journal, she was talking all these things. She's like, well, it never says his name. And I was actually working on a play that was supposed to be a dark comedy. So then the attorney and the judge were like, oh, so you write scripts, huh? She's like, yeah, it's just a hobby. I've never done it professionally yet. And they were like, show us like a theater ticket within the past 12 months that you've been to. And she couldn't. And then she was fucking guilty. So like this research shit here, just cracking up on.
Doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Okay, so the defense argued that Nancy and her husband were in a loving relationship for over 25 years. Part of what makes this story so interesting is Brophy's writing also came under question in court. And in November 2011, long before she was accused of the murder, she explained the perfect way to kill one's husband in a tongue-in-cheek essay on her website entitled, How to Murder Your Husband. I tried like hell to find this essay. Okay, I wanted to read it, but it has since been removed from the internet. I don't know how somebody scrubbed it clean. I could not fucking find this thing anywhere.
I'm sure. Hopefully you're not flagged now. It's like all of Lisa's searches. It's like how to kill your husband essay, how to kill your husband.
Well, listen, we have a true crime podcast. If anyone looks at my fucking Google searches, I'm going to jail, probably. So this article, it describes this piece of writing. So I'm going to tell you what this article wrote. In a weary tone, in which she assumes the persona of a woman who wants to murder her husband, Nancy wrote, divorce is expensive, and do you really want to split your possessions? Or if you're married for money, aren't you entitled to all of it? The drawback is police aren't stupid. They are looking at you first. So you have to be organized, ruthless, and very clever.
Oh my God.
And she concluded the piece by noting that I find it easier to wish people dead than to actually kill them. I don't want to worry about brains and blood splattered on my walls, and I'm really not good at remembering lies. She's ridiculous. She's not even a very good writer, honestly.
No, she's not. That's why I was like, that's like some Peggy Hill shit. Like, you just think you're great.
Nancy Crampton Brophy was indicted and put on trial for her husband's murder in April 2022. It just fucking happened.
Damn. Okay. Better late than never, I guess. But all right.
Well, I think she's been in jail this whole time. She was denied bail. She's been in jail since 2018. Sorry about you. On May 25th, 2022, a jury of 7 women and 5 men in Multnomah County found Nancy Brophy at the age of 71 guilty of second-degree murder for killing her chef husband, Daniel Brophy, in cold blood. The unanimous decision made by the jury took approximately 24 hours to determine her fate.
Really? It's like that long.
But 24 hours, dude. This 7 weeks of testimony. And they were like, one day we're done. Bye. See you later. On June 14th of 2022, just a couple weeks ago, she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. She's 71. She ain't seeing parole in 25 years.
Yeah, she ain't making it out. Nah.
And her husband, Daniel Craig Brophy, was 63 years old when she killed him. 4 years later, Daniel Brophy's loved ones are still reeling from the loss. They describe the pain of knowing his grandchild will never meet him, all because Brophy was killed by the woman for whom he cooked meals, washed clothes, and brought into his family's fold for 27 years. Nathaniel Stillwater is Daniel Brophy's son, and he was quoted after she was sentenced saying, "You opted to lie, steal, cheat, fraud, ultimately kill the man that was, for some reason still unbeknownst to me, your biggest fan. You executed my father in an act of cold-blooded, premeditated murder. The man that did everything for you." It's rough.
That's brutal, yeah.
And I feel like too often when we tell stories, a lot of the focus is on the murderer rather than the person who lost their lives. It's very easy in true crime to become kind of fascinated in the awful and unnatural way people's mind works when they commit these crimes. So for the sake of not doing that, I want to take a moment and make sure that I honor Daniel Brophy and we talk about him. His obituary read, Chef Daniel Brophy was passionate about cooking. His background in food spanned more than 50 years, and his first job was in a restaurant, according to a 2010 video interview with Brophy that was created by the Oregon Culinary Institute. And he was an instructor there since 2006, so over 10 years.
Okay.
His faculty page described him as an expert in marine biology, master gardener, and a mushroom expert, and the most active faculty member leading field trips, organizing student projects, and speaking in the community. He had taken students on mushroom hunting trips, dabbled in beekeeping, and was an avid gardener. An upcoming hearing is for restitution to his family is slated for this month. In the meantime, Judge Christopher Ramus said he hoped the sentencing could bring closure to the loved ones of a man he'd come to know as Chef Brophy throughout the trial. And he was quoted saying, "I think the thing that you can take away, which I hope gives you some small measure of solace, is that he was a mentor and a teacher to many and had an impact over a lot of people's lives. And hopefully they will turn and have an impact on others themselves as they teach."
That's actually beautiful.
Really beautiful, right?
Statement, yeah.
So do you think she did it?
100%.
I do too.
100%.
Yeah,
there's no way in hell she didn't do it.
There's nothing
if
else.
Someone that is well versed in how to get away with things or how to do things, you would think, again, don't do crime, folks.
She's not well versed.
I'm not condoning crime. I'm just saying if you were this self-proclaimed guru on how to do things, why didn't you have the common sense to think of hiring someone to do it?
Because no one could do it better than her. Duh.
No one could do it better than her. Yeah, exactly. Her way is the only way.
She's just the worst. The worst.
Well, she got what's coming to her. She'll be in jail. She ain't seeing daylight
in jail
again
for the rest of her stinking life. Yeah. So that is the story of how to murder your husband. I'm not murdering my husband, folks. This is just what it's called.
Is Mike going to listen to this now and be like, will. Oh, whoa, this is too close to home?
He's like, oh, wait, shit. Better do the dishes.
All right. So as I said before, my title is Good Grief.
This is not a visual medium, but Justin's faces on this podcast are so fabulous. You should have seen the question mark that was scrawled across his face when he just said that. Okay, go ahead.
Are you familiar with a man, an actor or voice actor known as Peter Robbins? Does that name ring a bell to you at all?
Nope. I immediately went Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robbins. So no.
It's close. I mean, it's another hit cartoon, if you will, that people grew up with for ages. Before I go into the details of what we're really talking about, Peter Robbins, for those who are listening, they're not sure who he is. He's an actor. He's a voice actor, most well known for being the voice of Charlie Brown from, the long-standing cartoon series Peanuts. He was able to appear in, the Peanuts TV specials, like including Charlie Brown Christmas, It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
These are my favorites.
Along with, exactly, he's in all of them, nothing but the hits, along with a movie called A Boy Named Charlie. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what this story is really about and why it involves him. That said, I'm just going to give you some more history on him because for this story, it's important that you know his whole background.
Got it. So
Peter Robbins was originally born under the name Louis G. Nanasi on August 10th, 1956.
Spell it. Is this Italian?
Nanasi.
That's not Italian. Nanana. I mean, I guess it could be Nanasi. I think you said it right.
Nanasi. Actually, I can tell you right now where it's from. His family immigrated from Hungary to the U.S. Back in 1950, just a few years before he was born.
Correct.
Yeah. So he had an older sister named Anna Capri. So it's Ahna Capri. She was born Anna Marie Nanasi. She was born in Budapest and went on to become a Hollywood actress herself. Okay?
Oh, that's cool.
So they both grew up in California, where Peter eventually graduated college from the University of California, San Diego, back in like 1979. At the age of 7, he got his start in acting when he started to land some minor roles in different TV shows and movies. So one of the very first roles that he was able to land when he was a child actor, which ended up becoming his most notable role, was when he became the voice actor behind the main character of the animated specials for the cartoon Peanuts, like Charlie Brown.
He was the Charlie Brown.
He was the Charlie Brown in all of those TV specials that you saw as a kid growing up.
Okay, that's nuts.
I never knew that.
I don't know why, for some reason, I just had the assumption that it was like Rugrats, where it was just adults with kids' voices. You know?
Honestly, that's what I thought though too. For years, until like I started looking into this, I legit thought it was just all adult actors.
Yeah.
And I also didn't know that, you know, the voice of the special is different than like later on, like the mini little cartoon series they did as well. But yes, all of those movies, they were technically TV specials back then. He voiced most of those.
That's cool.
That's fucking crazy.
Probably made a pretty penny.
I'm sure he did. Yeah, he ended up landing that. And even before he got the job, he considered Charlie Brown to be his childhood hero from the newspaper comics that he read back in his day.
That's cool.
So the animated specials were mostly released on TV over the years, starting in 1965, like we talked about. And it gave fans of the Peanut cartoon another way of checking them out outside of the newspapers, blah, blah, blah. Robbins himself went on to be featured as the voice of Charlie Brown up until the age of 14.
Wow.
When he ended up being replaced by a younger voice actor after he hit puberty. It makes sense.
Yeah. Charlie Brown can't have his voice.
I always think about that for child actors, like voice actors. I'm always like, is there just the day that comes when you're in the middle of recording and you're like, we're going to have a great time. And they're like, cut.
Whoa,
okay,
whoa.
just go home
Listen,
for a moment.
Timmy.
And then they fire you. Yeah. So I always wondered what that was like.
Oh, there it is.
But yeah, once he hit puberty, they replaced him. However, Charlie Brown's signature scream that was first coined during his appearance in A Boy Named Charlie continued to be used in the future Peanut specials even after he left the show.
Oh,
that's fucked up. They just kept that clip. They just kept doing it.
I think it's cute. You think it's fucked up? I think it's kind of like it pays homage to him.
It's kind of cute. It's like that thing known as and I didn't know about this until my girlfriend Peyton, when we first started dating a few years ago, she pointed this out. She's like, are you familiar with the Wilhelm scream? And I'm like, Wilhelm scream? What the fuck is that?
The band?
So, no. Back in the day, there was a man named something Willem. And when film first started, like to have sound, he initially did like the screams. And now several films, hundreds, thousands of films over the years have used his scream because he didn't own the rights to it. It's an infamous scream. You know the sound. Anyone listening, look up Wilhelm scream, and you're going to be like, this is fucking insane. So that's what I think of about this young boy's being used for every Charlie Brown special that he's not in.
I'm going to put it in the closing music. I am. I'm going to do it.
Yes. Yeah, they continue to use that even when he was gone from the show. So like, despite no longer being a member of the cast, he was still very attached to the cartoon and its characters as he had remained a lifelong fan. So it seems. He even got a tattoo of Charlie Brown and Snoopy on his arm to commemorate the characters.
Listen, I'm covered in tattoos. I would totally do that. You're laughing right now like that's ridiculous. I would totally do that. I have the brave little toaster tattooed on my body, Justin.
No, I'm just laughing because I thought back to like a random Family Guy sketch where they had like adult Charlie Brown in a pub just drunk talking about remember that he was like, I was the one who sold him the meth or whatever the fuck it was. And I think he had the tattoo of himself in that too, which confused me, but now it makes sense.
It's hysterical. Hysterical.
But yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the tattoo. That's loyalty. And again, when you were a lifelong fan and you were physically in that show, you're committed to it. I get it. We know people in real life, they have tattoos of fucking show names from when we were in college. Like I get the connection to these things.
We sure do.
Yeah, so I get it. No shade. But outside of his time with the Charlie Brown stuff, he was able to make smaller appearances on different episodes of TV shows such as F Troop, The Munsters, and Get Smart. Although they were like mostly one-off episodes here and there, you know, nothing too serious. So he was able to appear in a few different movies, including Good Times, which was the Sonny and Cher movie. Like it was well-known Sonny and Cher movie back in the day.
Okay.
By 1972, he retired altogether. He's like, I'm just done with this entertainment.
How old was he? Was he like 30?
I mean, yeah, he was around there by late 20s.
Oh my God. He's like, I'm out.
Pretty much he was like, I'm done with all of this. And he went to work in real estate instead. So he was like, fuck this. A lot of child actors, you know, after a while, they don't want to be some of them don't want to be in the spotlight. Some of them just can't manage to find the spotlight again. So then they just go into regular lives.
Right.
And, that's what he did. So he went into real estate and he spent some time every now and again doing radio and even hosted a radio show back in 1996. So that long period of time, 1972, real estate, every now and again, radio, 1996, he did like a quick little radio show. And by then, I'm sure people didn't realize who he was either, unless
he certainly didn't sound like Charlie Brown anymore. So why would you connect those things?
Clearly not.
Right.
Clearly not.
Imagine a grown-ass man who still sounds like Charlie Brown.
And now on WBK, whatever, like you fucking, that would be weird to me.
It's also creepy. Yep.
Yeah, that's a little creepy. But behind the scenes and all of that stuff, Robbins himself was dealing with a lifelong bout with mental health issues that plagued him during and after his career in entertainment. As stated on multiple different occasions, including during his court hearings, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and bipolar disorder from a young age. His mental illness, or illnesses, if you were further amplified by his addictions to drugs and alcohol. Yeah. Which was a recipe for disaster. We all know this from the start.
And unfortunately, they always find each other, Exactly. It's like a coping mechanism for anyone with any kind of disorder, whether it's ADD, ADHD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. Somehow it's almost like self-medicating.
Exactly.
It's very sad.
So you think about whatever emotional trauma or mental trauma or adjustment that he couldn't cope with after leaving the show as well. He was a young man trying to find his way. So it's just all a recipe for just.
Well, when you play an iconic character like Charlie Brown for 7 years, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, you're not the same. Bye." Yeah, that's kind of traumatizing all on its own.
Absolutely. It's going to do some damage to you. So once he got older, all of those things just led into a couple run-ins with the law, which included what we're eventually going to get to in this story.
I love that you always say the law.
The law. In January of 2013, and I got to warn you folks, yes, you're all probably listening to this now, just like, where are we going with this? This is fucking Charlie Brown. Where could we possibly go? Again, look who you're fucking with. It's Crime of the Arts. We're going to take you places you didn't know you necessarily needed to go, but now you're entertained.
Welcome on our crazy train.
Yeah, seriously. In January of 2013, Peter Robbins was arrested while re-entering the U.S. through the port of entry in San Ysidro. I don't even know how to pronounce that. It was Ysidro. San Ysidro, okay, California, but it's by the San Diego County Sheriff Department.
Okay.
So the reason he was initially apprehended was because he had threatened to kill San Diego County Sheriff Bill Gore by using a hitman to kill him.
So he just walked into the border and was like, "What's up? I'm gonna kill the sheriff with a hitman."
Pretty much. Something must have happened at customs. He didn't like what was said. He went off the cuff and just
snapped.
He snapped. And again, we're talking about someone that's bipolar and schizophrenic. So there's a lot going on there. And we don't know if he's high.
Well, with schizophrenia comes paranoia and all those other things. This could be completely something like he beautiful minded all on his own experience.
Exactly. But he went through customs. There was an issue there. He started arguing with that county sheriff, Bill Gore. He had threatened to kill him. He had threatened to get a hitman to kill him. So...
Do you imagine?
First off, anything customs related or government related on a border, any little thing you do will cause a fine. Anything you do in excessiveness will you're gonna be locked up. There's no questions asked.
Okay, first of all, I've never been through customs. I've never fucking been anywhere. Mr. I fly all over the world now. So is it the way they make it seem in movies where you're like standing in line, waiting nervously, being stared at? Does it feel like that?
It does feel like that in some places. And I mean, some places when you're coming from them, depending on where you're naturally from, it can turn into a whole thing. Like we're going to segue here for a second, like Stranger Things, for argument's sake. Okay. Everybody's seen Stranger Things. Lisa has just binge watched it. That's why I'm bringing it up. Joseph Quinn, the actor who played lovable Eddie Munson.
My new love. Yeah.
He's British. He flew into New York last month, and I guess they gave him like a secondary screening when he was going through customs. So they bring you into like a little interrogation room. They ask you a couple questions because he's not a US citizen.
Oh, shit.
And they're just like, what are you here for? And he's like, I'm an actor. I'm here for the Tonight Show. Like, I'm going to be on it tonight.
They're like, you're right.
And they're like, oh, are you? And then they bring in more people to question him. And they keep asking him the same question in different ways to see if he's going to fuck up. And then finally, one of the people walked in there and was like, do you not know who that is? He's Eddie Munson from Stranger Things. And after 2 hours of questioning, they let him go. So if Eddie Munson, who sacrificed himself for, Stranger Things for us all, if he can't make it through customs without an issue, what makes you think fucking Peter Robbins is going to make it through customs?
No one gives a fuck about.
Yeah, he said what he said, and he threatened him, and he was charged with 4 counts of felony for making a threat to cause bodily injury or death, and 1 felony count for stalking.
Wow.
When brought to court and asked about his motivation behind the act, he simply stated that he had not committed a crime because he was mentally ill.
Can you do that?
I mean, you technically can't, but it is like a Jedi mind trick.
He's like, I know this is illegal. I'm insane on paper, so I'm going to just tell you that and tell you all the things I just did don't matter because I'm insane on paper. That's not how it works.
Yeah, so it's not how it works, but you never know.
I guess, okay.
Depending on a jury, you could, but despite all of that.
Y'all don't want me on a jury for this kind of thing. I'm going to tear it apart.
Yeah, and y'all just don't want me on the jury because I tell everybody all day, every day, if I'm ever a part of jury, it's going to be like some 12 Angry Men shit because I need to know beyond reasonable doubt that we're truly correct in this judgment. So,
I was on a jury. I was picked for a jury. I sat for a week and a half on a jury trial. And I can't tell you what it was about, but what I can tell you is that I told some guy who said that the person was faking it or lying to get whatever. I said, well, yeah, maybe not everyone in the world is an asshole like you who makes things up and lies to get things. Yep, that's what 25-year-old Lisa said in a jury deliberation room. Calling strangers assholes.
See, there you go. Yeah, and I feel like that's the thing. I feel like if everybody's already quick to make the verdict, I might have to be that one to be like, no, but in this case, I don't know. I probably would have been in there like Peter Robbins is crazy, y'all, but still he did what he did on the border. We gotta lock him up. But yeah, despite I don't know what to call it, the surprising nature of the crime that he committed here. Because again, I warned y'all folks, it was so random. This was not. I repeat, this was not the only incident of him making threats to others that came to light that year.
Oh,
okay.
Boy.
He also pleaded guilty to threatening and stalking his ex-girlfriend.
Yikes.
Don't react yet. Along with the plastic surgeon that was responsible for her breast augmentation.
What?
Let that sink in.
So wait a minute.
He pleaded guilty on a separate crime of threatening and stalking his ex-girlfriend along with her plastic surgeon that obviously gave her a boob job.
New boobs. Yeah.
New boobs. Yeah.
Is it because he liked the boobs? You don't have an answer for me?
I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and say he didn't like the boobs or maybe it was done wrong. I don't know. This is like a trend here in California, apparently, because remember we discussed Mel Gibson a few episodes ago and I told you he fucking flipped out on his girlfriend at the time.
Right.
Talk about he didn't want foreign objects. He didn't want her breastfeeding. He didn't want that foreign objects in his kids' mouth. All that random shit he was saying. And now this guy. So
wonderful. Also insane on paper. So makes sense.
Yeah, there you go. So additionally, he admitted to sending threatening letters to a manager of a trailer park. This guy gets around people. He was doing
what? Sending letters to the manager of a trailer park. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. And his wife during the trial. Yeah.
Somebody married this fool.
Well, no. I think it was the manager of the trailer park's wife. When the news of his threats came to light, people were shocked that the voice actor behind such a wholesome cartoon character, Charlie Brown, was responsible for these kinds of crimes.
Well, he's not actually Charlie Brown, you dipshits.
No, he's not. But, again, that's one of those things. It's animated, so you never really put 2 and 2 together. And now you're seeing this grown ass man. And I mean, he was an older man when all of this was happening.
Right.
Like, I have to look up his age again. I want to tell you, he was already late 50s, early 60s during all of this.
What's
So,
funny is you say that about cartoons, like you don't realize who's the voice. So I have a 2-year-old, as I've said 5,000 times on this podcast. And because of that, I've been watching, obviously, cartoons for the last 2 years. And recently, I'm watching these cartoons and I'm like, that voice sounds familiar on probably like 6 different occasions. Okay. I put these movies on and I'm listening to them, watching the whole thing. And I'm like, is that Dane Cook? Dane Cook played a main character in a Disney movie. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Last night, watching this, The Croods.
Oh, The Croods. Okay, I was
you know
like,
who's in the cast of The Croods?
I didn't. I feel like I might have known that once upon a time. I saw The Croods.
Nicolas Cage. I'm sitting there and I'm like, is that Nicolas Cage?
Nicolas Cage does great voice work.
Is that Ryan Reynolds? Is that Emma Stone? Nicolas Cage, Ryan Reynolds, Emma Stone.
That's all-star team right there.
I mean, why is The Croods not more popular? Who knows? But I'm just saying, blown away by all these things that I'm like, oh, like Cars. My son's obsessed with the cartoon Cars. Do you know that the hippie van is played by George Carlin?
Yes.
Incredible. Okay, go ahead. I just, it really is fascinating because they are their own characters and somehow you forget that there's famous people behind these things.
You somehow forget that they're like who they are outside of that. And it just... So, yeah, I guess it was not only jarring to see probably on the news an old ass man with the label Charlie Brown actor.
Definitely.
And then to see all of these crimes that he did. It's pretty crazy.
Weird. These are not normal crimes. These are the crimes of a person who needs
who's mentally
health.
ill. Yeah, 100%. But that's why I was like, it's only got to get weirder. After
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it. But the people who managed the trailer park, were they the managers of a trailer park that he lived in? Like, what's the association?
I was trying to look into that. I think once upon a time, he might have lived there.
Okay.
Actually, I think I might even put it in my sources. It was just, there was so much randomness that this motherfucker was doing that I was like, for this segment, I need to focus on just all the randomness because no one's going to believe what I'm witnessing right now.
Hit up the notes, folks.
After he was released from prison, he was sent to a residential drug treatment center to help, manage his substance abuse.
Okay.
It wasn't long before he was arrested again in 2015.
Jesus.
For committing multiple different probation violations, such as not completing his mandatory court-assigned domestic violence classes, and he was drinking alcohol when he wasn't supposed to.
Wonderful.
And then during one of his court proceedings back in June of that same year, he was ordered to go through a mental health examination because of an outburst that he had in court, which I'm sure went along with him saying, I'm mentally ill, I can't commit these crimes.
Right. And they're like, okay, usually you're not cognizant of the fact that you're mentally ill. And that's why these things happen. So this is a turn of events.
He ended up being sentenced to 4 years and 8 months in prison in December of 2015 as part of a plea agreement for the threats that he made towards the trailer park manager and his wife.
Huh.
They stuck him on that. Out of all things, I mean, he deserves time for that too, but it's just interesting.
What he really needs is to be committed to a mental health facility. He doesn't need to be sent to drug rehab. That's a cause and effect sort of thing. So why not deal with the root cause rather than the effect?
Exactly.
But that's why our system is broken. It's the same thing, right? They sent him to a drug rehab, didn't change his mental health, didn't help him with that. Like schizophrenia, you could be medicated for, and some people can live normal lives, but it has to be maintained.
Exactly. That's the catch, though. It's all about finding the correct medication and maintaining that medication.
Right.
But I guess the story can somewhat go up a little bit now because he did end up serving his time back in California institution for men in Chino before actually being transferred to a psychiatric hospital due to his mental condition.
The system worked? Are you going to tell me a story about how the system worked?
Possibly. Oh. So they eventually released him on parole back in October of 2019 once he had served out 80% of his original sentencing.
I just got to say. What month was
it's
it?
It's very rare.
What month?
That he was released? October?
October 2019. And then 6 months later, the world shut down and he was in his own prison in his house for 2 years with COVID.
I know. And
I mean, I guess it's better than being in jail, but
No, but
goddamn,
still.
it sucks.
So he was released under the condition that he no longer took any more illegal drugs, alcohol, as we know, once he was put on parole. After his release, he made an appearance on television explaining the process behind his path to recovery. And he finally received the proper type of medication to help this bipolar disorder. Although he was able to get back into the real world after serving his time, like you said, unfortunately, pandemic happened, isolation happened, things like that. Peter Robbins committed suicide at the age of 65 on January 15th of 2022 this year.
Oh my God.
Literally, I was going to go into that in a minute once I revealed about the suicide, because my thoughts on that was the exact same thing. I'm like, this man got released a few months before the world shut down. How the hell was he going to react to that?
Right.
And again, anyone that suffers from depression or paranoia, any sort of thing like that, when the pandemic hit and the world shut down, like those illnesses didn't stop. And unfortunately, that type of isolation only enhances the stressors of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exacerbated completely. Even if you didn't have anything that you were battling with, I'm a person who, has anxiety on a daily basis and medicated for it. Especially in those scenarios, those things are amplified, like you said. But even for a person who doesn't suffer any of these sorts of daily things, it still becomes a part of your life.
Exactly.
Because it's such a scary world and everything's out of your control. It's just human nature to be worried or sad and be alone. I mean, I'm sure he didn't have much of a life to leave jail to go to.
Still.
So it's not like he left and was surrounded by family. He was probably in a place where he was probably alone for a long time. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Finally almost get the help that you need and
literally, and you were on the road to recovery, and
on the tips of your fingers.
And again, this is just speculation here, but I just don't find it coincidental that we go into lockdown and again that isolation, everything else, boom, that happens.
And it was January of this year. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
The news of his actual death was not announced by his family until a week after he had already passed away. Around the time of his death, he was in a biopic, if you will, or an autobiographical documentary. It's called Confessions of a Blockhead, which would have documented his entire life, his time in prison, and what he was expected to do in the future.
He was already doing this?
Correct.
Oh,
and now it remains to be seen whether or not they'll end up releasing the documentary at a future time or not.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. Again, it seems like he got the help that he needed. He was on the road to recovery, and then we got hit by a global pandemic, and everything that happens. And that's the thing about any of these particular mental illness, especially the two that he had, bipolar or schizophrenia. The world shutting down, stuff like that. If he's not, let's say he even slipped off his medication for a little bit. Once you slip off of that, it's hard to get people back on that. Yep. And you just spiral.
And getting that chemical balance right in the right spot is super important. That's interesting. So they were doing a documentary about his life, and I wonder if that's hard to be a part of.
I would imagine.
Yeah, like you're looking at a summary of all the bad things, right? It's not focusing on all the good things. It's focusing on all the crazy shit that's happened to him, more than likely, because it's been a lot of bad, unfortunately. Some people's lives are like that. So that's really hard to just, for anyone to swallow. I don't want to look at a biopic of my own life. I'll tell you that much. So
I'm good on that.
Yeah, man.
Despite, the fact that Peter Robbins had a troubled legacy, he'll always be remembered as the voice actor, again, of the iconic cartoon for years to come, because every generation watches those specials. Even now, I'm sure you have Riley watching a couple of them, or
100%.
You're gearing him up to. Yeah.
Yeah. That pumpkin, the Halloween one is like one of my favorites. The Christmas one. I mean, those two especially were big in my childhood. So I'll definitely have a little man watching those.
So it was clear to see that he struggled to manage the mental illness and substance abuse issues throughout his life, which led to the problems that he had with law enforcement. Had he received the proper treatment a little earlier on, as you and I discussed, and the medications for his conditions earlier on in his life, there's no telling what his career trajectory would have been like, or where he would have ended up today.
Or just his life trajectory.
His life trajectory as well.
He didn't have to do anything artistic. He could have just been an advocate, you know?
Exactly. He could have helped turn other people's lives around. We will never know. It's just it's unfortunate. His suicide just goes to show how difficult it can be to go through life in general while dealing with mental health issues like that. It's a lot. It's a lot, people. And like, you know, you mentioned your anxiety, and it's no secret for close friends around me as well. Like throughout the years, I've had my extreme issues too of depression in and out. So like I totally get this and I resonate with this because it's like it's something that you're always gonna have to deal with. And even on a good day, that's still you're still dealing with that. Even on a good thing about these particular type of mental health issues is it's more like a thing that kind of, I don't want to say it wears you down over time, but it is just something that is so constant.
Yeah, under the surface forever.
It's an under the surface thing, and it's always waiting for you to potentially slip up. And, you know, fortunately for some of us, we have a better support system of people. We're a little more self-aware. We have a lot of people there to back us up. But
sure.
It sounds like Peter Robbins, unfortunately, he didn't have all of that. And that's the real messed up thing. But that, again, that goes back to our whole society talk. Like, you know, the system's partially broken, but also just like societal values of how we function.
Yep.
Like there's plenty of other people that suffer from depression or things like that. And they might have friends, but they might not be their actual support system. So it's a whole other discussion right there.
Oh, yeah. And it's true. Like you said, it's always something that you can't see it on another person.
No.
You never know that they're battling it, but sometimes it's a constant battle. You just got to keep it moving and hope you got it right. And sometimes you don't.
Exactly. But the key is, to keep moving and hopefully, that support system around you.
Yep. I got you, bro.
Yeah, and I got you, obviously. We just celebrated our friendship anniversary recently, folks. Lisa shared our it's funny because after you did that, everyone started sharing it, and I feel bad because I don't have time to like reshare a post. But Lisa and I have been friends essentially for like 16 years or 17 years, but the friendship anniversary goes by Facebook time. So it said like
I think
15.
We had Facebook when we started college. I think we were the guinea pigs because we're fucking old.
Because we're old, exactly. So our friendship anniversary started whenever we got Facebook, and it's showing like 15 and change.
And those pictures I brought up from last week are on that post. The 3 where you see us like 20, where it's like that the theater banquet, and we're like you're in your little blue pimp suit or whatever.
Wow, I feel like anyone listening now, their biggest takeaway from these stories, they're going to be like, we're going to have to look these fucking people up for these pictures.
What do they look like? I'm so curious of what people think that we look like. You ever do that? Where you listen to a podcast and you're like, wow, they don't look anything like I thought they
That voice doesn't match the look at all. So
yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. So the picture of us not aging. I mean, even though I said that about how it looks like when we're 28, we look like we're not kids anymore. Somehow you still look like I aged. You didn't really. You have like some vampire shit going on.
I told you before I had that. It's definitely some vampiric stuff going on. I made that joke, I think, in one of the episodes. I was like, well, I could cut my hair off now and shave, and I think I'll still be good.
Here's this. This is for you. I'm flipping him off, everyone. I'm flipping him off just for all of us regular folks.
Back in the day, though, you know, I was skinny. Now I got a little gut there. It's all right. But honestly, dad bods are in, so I'm not too stressed.
I mean, I told you, I'm in shape. Round is a shape. It's fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh man. But yeah, on that note, I'm just gonna leave it on. Sometimes the people behind the most innocent characters in media can have difficult background stories that we may have been unaware of. Even though the way their likeness is represented on TV or in movies could be entertaining and heartwarming to some, you never really know what's going on in their personal lives and what problems they're dealing with internally.
Exactly.
So this is why it's always important to look beneath the surface and gain a better understanding of how these people operate in the real world. Even if they have a tendency towards criminal behavior, we'll be here to continue bringing you all these kinds of tales about your favorite entertainers through the podcast. That's all
We're here just for you.
We're here just for you. When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.